So Archana, it seems to me that the inner voice, harnessing the power of your own inner voice, seems to be so powerful and such an important way to move forward in life by tapping into your inner voice. Yet a lot of people um, don't perhaps do it so much. Some people do it more than others. I'm wondering if you had any thoughts on why certain people don't really try to tap into their inner self, their inner thoughts, learning from past mistakes, analyzing what they do, having a conversation with themselves. Some people do it more than others. I'm curious as to why you think that is.
I think that's a great question because if you look at curriculum, right, whether you look at high school or whether you had a liberal arts degree or went to engineering or you went to business school, talking about our inner lives is just not on the agenda,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
We are not in the business of teaching people how to be whole. We're teaching people how to be impressive. We don't say it outright, but what we usually are thinking when we go to work is don't bring your whole self, bring the self that delivers, that performs, that will help me hit the bottom line. And so, from a work perspective, think about terminology, right? We're thinking high potentials, succession planning. We are talking about identity and who we are, our inner lives, as not something that is like a story, but it's something that we have to achieve. It's a trajectory that we're on. From that first day of an MBA program, you're trained to perform, right? Build out a market model or decode an income statement or speak in a way that people think you're competent. So the goal is to impress, it's to appear decisive. It's all about cognitive speed. It's not about emotional intelligence,
Hmm.
right? In our day-to-day world, appearing certain and confident is more valued than appearing vulnerable or being curious about yourself. And I'm not saying that we do it because we're malicious. I think it's just not something that we're used to doing. It's an incomplete way of thinking, right? Suppress emotion, amplify logic, stay ahead. That's kind of the formula that we have. And if I can bring in some neuroscience,
Hmm.
right? We as humans, like the impressive ones, we tend to live in our prefrontal cortex, right? Like that's where the decisions are made. That's the executive center of the brain.
Right.
It's the part that reads the HBR article, that builds the OKRs, that delivers the keynotes. But the people who we see as change makers, as as movers and shakers, the ones that the history books talk about, I don't think that they lead from that prefrontal cortex. I think they lead more from in that brain, the limbic system, that limbic system that stores memory, regulates emotions, detects threats. Because emotional intelligence is just such a big part of who we are. You know, this limbic system in our brain, it decides, even before we are aware of it, whether someone is safe, whether we can trust. And if that system, where these mental models live, where our memories are stored,
Hmm.
is so unexamined, is not really talked about for like the first 20, 25 years of our lives, and how will people start talking or thinking or become aware of their inner lives? So we are on this trajectory where we are sort of conditioned to produce results, to respond to praise, to wait for that next dopamine kick, right? To crave the next win. And so by the time you get to a point where that's no longer working, say it's, you're now a team lead or you've reached the C-suite, your brain has already been trained over years to be more prefrontal cortex oriented, even though your limbic system, even though that is the one that makes all the emotional decisions, that's just you sort of you've turned it off. You've perfected the art of ignoring it.
Huh. Right.
So it's not that your inner life doesn't exist. It's a matter of whether you can listen to it or not. And it brings up something that Brene Brown said, which is whether you like it or not, your emotions are going to drive you. Would you like them to drive you in the bright of day, or would you prefer that they stay in the shadows where you're not aware of them, where you can't see them and they drive you?